A new report on the 2018 border policy that separated families has found that U.S. leadership was not prepared to implement the policy or manage the fallout. With more on this conversation, we go to KUSI contributor Esther Valdes Clayton, who joins us now with reaction to this report and how perhaps President-elect Joe Biden plans to reform immigration policies moving forward. She joins us on the phone. Good morning, Esther. Nice to have you on.
Good morning, Liz.
All right, so let's start with this report out. What stood out to you about the information being revealed?
The headline, of course, was that the Office of the Investigative General, what he concluded was that the child separation policy, in effect, separated children from their parents or presumed parents who were bringing them in unlawfully into the United States. If we go back a couple of years, if we think about what happened in 2018, we all saw those images. They were just heart-wrenching of children being cared for by Border Patrol officers. That was essentially the groundbreaking part of this report, that there was no cooperation between various interagencies. They weren't notified. They didn't have the resources, the infrastructure to be able to handle the care and well-being of children. The administration was so focused on the law enforcement aspect of prosecuting adults who were entering the United States unlawfully that they failed to prepare and understand how complicated and complex it is to handle minors. As an immigration attorney for almost 2 decades now, I've represented dozens and dozens of children. And as a mom, you have that foresight to understand when children are worried, are in fear, and the U.S. government wasn't prepared to handle children who didn't even know where they were, that they had crossed a border, lacked the intention, didn't even know the family member's name or a nearest relative. All of that led to a political outcry, and also this investigative report showing that there was a lack of cooperation, lack of know-how, and lack of leadership under Kirstjen Nielsen, who was then Department of Homeland Security head, and of course Jeff Sessions, who implemented the policy. So it is astounding, and of course we're going to see a backlash now once the president-elect Joe Biden is sworn in office on Tuesday.
Okay, so let's talk about that as we look toward the future, because we know now what this investigation, this report is revealing, right? So now, with President-elect Joe Biden coming into office, what are your thoughts about what he's going to do with this policy?
Well, he's clearly stated this week where they had 2 huge announcements from the incoming administration. Kamala Harris stated that there was going to be an amnesty, legalization for DACA recipients that was going to be proposed, and for temporary protected status holders. Those are people who fled countries that had some sort of natural or political catastrophe happen that is given a temporary protected status here in the United States. She stated that under the Biden administration, they would be given lawful permanent residence with the ability to become U.S. citizens. The other big announcement was Joe Biden stated to what was reported to the Los Angeles Times. He stated that there would be, quote unquote, an amnesty for the 11 to 20 million estimated undocumented immigrants in the United States. It's a bold piece of legislation that has the potential to impact not just U.S. elections, but also the economy. The backdrop, curiously enough, is that, well, he's proposing an amnesty allowing up to 20 million people to live, work, and vote here lawfully in the United States. The backdrop is that under the coronavirus pandemic, we have about 18 million Americans who are currently out of a job, currently suffering the economic malaise that has been caused by all of the store closures and the non-essential businesses. So it's going to be very interesting to see how he approaches this to the American public. And even in your earlier piece, talking about the caravan that's coming from Central America. It's going to be very interesting to see how Joe Biden manages to then either open the border and keep his promise to a lot of the immigrant advocates that want a more welcoming and approachable and open border policy for immigrants coming into the United States, while balancing it with the real needs of being able to curtail a pandemic right at our nation's border and not cause the Border Patrol, as well as all the other agencies, as well as the health and human safety agencies, to be overwhelmed by possibly thousands of people coming into the nation's border that haven't been checked for coronavirus or vaccinated or have any kind of safety protocols in place to handle this upcoming caravan that's set to meet the president the day of his inauguration.
And that's what, as we wrap here, I wanted to ask you about this caravan. I believe we talked to you yesterday about this. What are you hearing in terms of how soon will this caravan of migrants be reaching our border? You believe by Wednesday? And what will happen to them?
That was the original date. Of course, once they cross into Mexico, the policy still remains in effect that once you enter a safe third country, you have to ask for asylum while you're there, and then you can't simply state once you arrive in the United States, I had no place to go. You have to ask in the first safe harbor that you crossed. I think what they're really trying to make is a political point. And as reported by the LA Times, they're saying, Biden, keep your promises, keep your word. So now we have a whole other electorate that he has to play out to Central America, or then have the pushback from a lot of people who want him to welcome and admit new refugees. Can we handle that right now in the San Diego border, where all of us are at the stay-in-place? And there's already 50,000 people in the Remain in Mexico program in Tijuana waiting for their court trial. So it's going to be very interesting to see how he handles it. And I think the right thing to do is to focus on health and safety first, but also to administer the judicial protocols that need to happen to expedite these potential asylum cases.
Esther Valdes Clayton, thank you so much for your perspective on a number of border policy issues that we are currently dealing with. Great to have you on, and have a great day.
Thank you, Liz. Same to you.
All right.